Boxes come in all different shapes and sizes. They're great for moving, organizing, and storing. Harmless, right? Are you scared of the box? How about you? Maybe you. No. Boo. But there are boxes that can hold us hostage, make us feel hopeless, and even stifle our dreams. I'm not good enough. I am not the perfect mother. I am not in an acceptable relationship. And the good old-fashioned, the only way to make a living is by working hard box. These are the emotional boxes that we, as society, we put each other into. Or even worse, we put ourselves into. These emotional constraints, they do not know social or economical status. There is no discrimination against age, race, gender, or religion. But boxes can also hold gifts if we're willing to take the risk and open them up. Often as humans, we don't like to do things that we perceive as risky. Most of the time, we don't like to expose ourselves to things that feel unfamiliar, the possibility of failure, or things that might be scary. When we are called to live authentically, we are frightened by just the thought of taking risk. Yet every day, we take multiple risks without even hesitating. When you make a purchase, when you take a prescription, heck, even when we get in our cars, we are taking risks. Yet we do it without even hesitating. Therefore, could it be our perspective of risks that we should examine? Is it possible that not taking risk is riskier than taking risk? Why do we label risk with bad, scary outcomes? Could it be that risk is just an opportunity to get us from where we currently are to a new possibility? What if we could embrace risk? For example, the hermit crab. There comes a time when it has outgrown its shell. Parts of it may even be exposed to predators. The hermit crab instinctively knows that it must find a new shell. And when it musters up the courage to step outside of the old shell and take on the new shell, this is when it's most exposed. Yet the fear of being exposed during the transition isn't greater than the hermit crab's desire to grow. See, for the crab, this is just a natural process of life. There is no judgment on whether the risk is good or bad, just that it is necessary in order to continue to grow. What if we could think of risk like hermit crabs too? Would we be willing to take a risk more often and open the gifts that life is presenting us? See, like the hermit crab, we use our boxes like a shell for protection. Some of us may even stay in our boxes when we've outgrown them, and rather than exposing ourselves to the risk of being vulnerable, because it offers us a false sense of security. It's better to stay in this relationship that's going nowhere. At least I'm not lonely. It's better to stay at this unfulfilling job. At least it pays my bills. It's better to fill in your blank. In the meantime, as we stay in our boxes that we've outgrown, what we may not realize is that we leave ourselves prone to stress, depression, sickness, weight gain. The list goes on and on. What we may not realize is by not taking risks, we are still taking risks. We risk our health and our emotional well-being in order not to feel uncomfortable, unfamiliar, or vulnerable. We often pay the ultimate price of self-sacrifice. I'd like to share a story with you about a woman we'll call CJ. Now, CJ, she was not afraid of taking risks. She changed jobs a lot, and she tried a variety of things. CJ has always had a deep knowing that life wasn't meant to look the way most of us live it, working for the weekend. In her community, she was often viewed as indecisive. Oh, and a little flaky. But this was not the case at all. CJ was being called to want more. And that desire to answer the call was greater than being placed in a box. CJ loved to ride motorcycles. She parachuted from the back of boats. She ziplined 120 feet above water. In 2014, one of CJ's ventures took her and her teenage son 2,000 miles across the country to pursue a lifelong dream. Can you imagine giving up all your possessions, your family, and your friends to start new? For some people, that's way too risky. After just a few weeks, she realized that her son was not going to stay with her, and he was going back to be with his dad and friends. And in that moment, she realized that the desire to be with her son was greater than chasing the dream. CJ moved back just 6 short weeks later. After returning, she went from homeless, jobless, and broke to a homeowner within a year because she had finally landed what her parents would consider a respectable job because it offered the security of a steady paycheck. She was loving her new job. She was very comfortable. And she justified her new box by telling people, at least it still aligns with my higher mission of helping people take better care of themselves while I get to create community. She was loving work and got very comfortable with the steady income. After 8 months, the company changed directions and took on a new path that no longer agreed with her. In her heart, she knew she should leave. Yet CJ's fear of losing her new home and her steady income was greater So she stayed in the box. Over the next 5 months, she experienced a rapid decline in her health and gained weight quickly. Intuitively, she knew she should leave. Yet that fear was still greater. She did not want to lose her home, so she stayed. She was just 2 points away from needing a blood transfusion. Her iron and vitamin D levels were dangerously low. And on top of that, she was dealing with hormone and thyroid issues. She jumped from specialist to specialist in desperation to find a solution. Every doctor was in awe of how she was managing at such a low level. As she dragged herself around from office visit to office visit. Most days after coming home from work, CJ could barely walk. Nevertheless, prepare dinner for her family. There was days that the pain was so bad. The mere weight of her clothes on her body hurt. She felt like she was dying. She was at the mercy of her own fears. She gave the best part of her day and herself to a job that no longer aligned with her. Until one day, CJ was called into the office. And she was let go. Now the box was gone, and not in a way that CJ would have ever chosen for herself. Now, not only was she exposed, but she didn't have her health, making it difficult to take the necessary risks to move to the next box. CJ's full name is Claudia Jean. I am CJ. Yes, that woman was me. How did I get so lost? When did I become so comfortable, and where did my sense of adventure go? In retrospect, I've realized a few things. I realized that had I been willing to take the risks of being my true, authentic self at the time that I recognized the job no longer agreed with me, maybe I still wouldn't be on the road to recovery today. I also learned to embrace the risk of change. Can you remember the last time you were excited about change? Okay, I'll help you. Do you remember the first time you rode a bike? Yeah. All right. Do you remember being really scared, yet super excited? Do you remember having a sense of freedom? I'm sure there's other times in your life that you felt that same sense of excitement and adventure. See, risk is just the willingness to try something new. Oh, but my biggest takeaway was that not taking risk is the biggest risk of all. See, losing my job was truly a gift. They gave me what I couldn't give myself. I now welcome adventure and excitement back into my life. No matter what the circumstances are, I live with passion. And that brings me joy. And when we live with joy, we have more peace in our world. But see, risk does something even more wonderful. Risk is like the gift that keeps on giving. Like when you throw a pebble into the water and it creates a ripple effect. See, when we take risk and live authentically, we give other people the permission to do the same. Well, if she can do it, I can certainly do it. The more people that we have living from joy, the more peace we create in our world. I don't know about you, but what I believe, our world can use a few more people living from joy.
Amen.
Like the hermit crab, when we stay in our boxes that we've outgrown, we too become vulnerable, and that is risky. But that type of risk is riskier than when we willingly risk being vulnerable in our own terms. Yes, risk is scary, but there are different types of risk. There is a risk of living a life that is unfulfilling, uninspired, yet safe, or the risk of living in alignment with who you truly are and living authentically. Let me ask you, are you ready? Are you willing to be the crab? Good. Because then the next time life hands you a box, take the risk. Open it up. Receive the gift. Your authentic, joyful life is waiting.